Agreed to. The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, if I was the Leader of the Opposition, I wouldn't be discussing numbers in caucus in any situation, Mr Speaker. And if I was going to talk about toast, I wouldn't be talking, if I was David Cunliffe, about toast, the guy who won't tell New Zealanders who donated even for his leadership bid. That's how straight that person is in this parliament, Mr Speaker. But there is actually a more important issue for the opposition, Mr Speaker, and that is what's going on with the Labor Party. Why? Exactly nothing. That's my point. Why are they struggling along at 30% in the polls, or 27% according to one prominent commentator yesterday? It's not like their leader isn't out there rushing around doing stuff. He's too busy to come to Wellington some days because he's so busy out there giving speeches. He's too busy to go on the television for pre-arranged interviews because he's busy rushing around the place. But he's working away, but nothing is happening. He sort of tries to look like a leader. He puts on his nerd face and tries, oh yes, I'm a very serious leader. This is what leaders look like. But actually it's not going anywhere. So why is that? Well, it's a tricky conundrum. It's a tricky conundrum, Mr Speaker. And there's a number of possible reasons. One is possibly that they focus on beltway issues all the time. Far be it from me to tell them about that, but perhaps that's what they do. But possibly a more telling issue is that they spend their lives constantly making stuff up, so that when they open their mouths, the public go, don't think so, before they hardly say a word. Here's just a few examples in recent days, Mr Speaker. Yesterday, their leader out saying, Labor ran a surplus every year in government. Well, they didn't. In their last year, they were proposing a $3.9 billion deficit. Wrong, Mr Cunliffe. The claim yesterday that our economic recovery is due only to Canterbury and high dairy prices. Wrong. The recovery is a broad-based recovery. The claim that New Zealand was nowhere to be seen on the whaling issue in the last couple of weeks. Wrong. The Attorney-General was actually in the court. The claim that there is a manufacturing crisis, also wrong, Mr Speaker. The sector has been in expansion for 19 months. And of course, there is the claim that costs are rising faster than wages, and actually, since September 2008, average after-tax wages have increased more than inflation. Trevor, go home. You're getting on, Trevor. Let it go. But there's another example of this making stuff up and exaggeration. Here is Labor's new policy, their new policy which says they will require trucks not to drive in the fast lane. Yeah, it's apparently a new policy of the Labor Party, which is sort of okay, fair enough, except you have to read on the fine print. And at least on this one, the fine print's here, which we couldn't say for the baby bonus policy. The fine print says only for 3- and 4-lane motorways. OK, so they will stop trucks driving in the fast lane, but only in 3- and 4-lane. How many 3- and 4-lane motorways do you think there is in New Zealand, Mr Speaker? How many of these motorways exist? I'll give you a clue. Of 11,000 kilometres of state highway in New Zealand, how many of them are 3- or 4-lane motorways that this wonderful policy affects, Mr Speaker? The answer is about 50, 60k. Of 11,000 kilometres, about 50 or 60k, Mr Speaker, are being affected by this. But you don't hear that from the Labor Party. And Mr nerd-faced Labor Party leader, David Cunliffe, very serious, very serious. We're going to stop these trucks passing, but only for 60 k's. The other 11,000 k's won't be changing. That's their problem, Mr Speaker. They make stuff up and they exaggerate. But at least it's the issues that matter. At least it's the issues that matter. And actually, I've been thinking of some more policies for them to think about for the next few days, Mr Speaker. I've got a few more, been crowdsourcing some policies, not just trucks, but how about pedestrians that walk slowly? That's annoying. Let's have a rule against that. That could be a new Labor Party transport policy, Mr Speaker. Pedestrians that walk too slowly. Let's have that one, because that's an issue that matters. What about another one? What about people who constantly change lanes at the security queues at airport? That's annoying. Let's have a policy for that. Let's sort that one out. And what about people have too loud TV commercials. They used to have that one. Let's bring that one. Mr. Speaker, the reason the Labor Party is struggling for relevance is because they have no idea what's important to Kiwis. They make stuff up and they exaggerate. In short, they're tricky, Mr. Speaker.
Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, not one word to defend Judith Collins from that minister. Not one single word to defend.